Okay.
Yes, yes, it's clear.
Housekeeping. Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So one thing is that we can do is that I can present whatever I have, and then if you have any questions, you can note down those questions or comments, and in the end we can discuss because I won't be able to read comments while presenting. So let's see what information do I have, so you can see if there are any questions. We can discuss your comments, questions in the end. I hope it's okay. So, because otherwise I have to come back and read and then comment. So, just for the sake of flow of this session. So, we'll start and thank you very much, everyone, for joining in and coming for this session. As you can see, the title of this session is writing a research proposal, and we will look at this quote. It says that good research proposal persuades the reader that a proposed piece of research is both worthwhile and feasible. Now, these two words are the key words in this whole session, worthwhile and feasible. So we will focus a lot on these two words because a research proposal, if you have to, I mean, uh, concisely define, then it should be worthwhile and feasible at the same time. So here we will be continuing, but just a kind of important thing is that we need to remember these two words during this session. So the outline for this session would be like this: what's a research proposal, purpose of a proposal, logic of a research proposal, and then we'll look at features on an effective proposal or a successful research proposal. This is the longest parts of a research proposal. We will spend quite a lot of time on that. Uh, mm, okay, so right. The perspective behind the research. This is something that is very important for any kind of research, any kind of research activity actually, because this thing we will discuss at length and see how it relates to the development of a research proposal. So let's start and look at the focus of today's presentation. Actually, research proposals have multiple functions and multiple reasons to be written. So we have to delimit our session to these points. First is this session is prepared for students who are students or teachers and faculty members who are required to undertake a small scale research project that involves empirical data collection, where they are supposed to collect data, and can be for a bachelor's degree project if some student is working for that, or a master's degree dissertation. It it is fine with an application for acceptance onto a PhD program for a university. Now, what we are not covering today is that we are not looking into scientific research proposals or other project research proposals that are written for funding and grants, and we are not focusing on those. Although, I mean, most of the parts of research proposals that we will discuss today, they are similar. There aren't a lot of differences except a couple of things that are additional in those kind of proposals where researchers are looking for grants and fundings. So they have budget and other stuff. So we are not going through those different parts that actually demands a separate session if we want to look into those kind of proposals in detail. So this would be the focus of our today's session. So let's start by looking at what is a research proposal. What do different researchers say about that? Punch 2000. Punch is a very popular writer on research theory and research writing. It says that it's a kind of document which particularly deals with proposed research, is what the proposed research is about. I mean, the main topic or area and what it is trying to find out or achieve. So this is the second thing, like what do we want to do by exploring that particular topic or area, and then how it will go about doing that. So that is all about methodology. How uh, will we conduct the research process? What would be the steps that we will take? And then what we will learn from it, and why that is worth learning. So this is very important because whenever we start a research project, so there is always a very interesting question that is asked, and that question is, so what? I mean, if you are conducting this research, then why is it necessary? So this question is very important, and any type of research activity needs to handle this question very effectively. So these are a couple of features we have seen. We can also see that it's relatively brief document that contains an outline, plan for a research project, and we can imagine that it's produced at the beginning of a research process, so that and the people who are responsible for approving our research project, they could understand what do we want to do and why do we want to do and how we will do it. So a well-constructed research proposal, it's a very important plan for the research that shows and what parts looks like and how they fit together. So when we will talk about logic of research proposal, there we will see that every part should be logically connected to other parts, and holistically, what do they want to achieve in the end? A research proposal is important part of a research process, and because success of any project depends on forward planning and organization. So this is very important, that how we have planned that particular project well, and what we will be achieving. If we are not clear about these things in the beginning, then of course that there are less chances that we might be able to successfully complete that project. So it's usually that this is the image that is used for understanding the research proposal. It's like a plan for a building, or it's a map for a building. If the map or the plan is well constructed, it's properly worked out, then there are chances that the building will be successfully built, and it will be a strong building. So this is how we can understand that why our research proposal is important. There can be different purposes for research proposal. As I said earlier, that we are not focusing on other different types. So our main focus would be academic research proposals that are written for academic purposes. So the first purpose is why your research is necessary, and this is the main thing that you have to this is the undercurrent thought that goes on during the whole document that we prepare, and we show this by showing or displaying gaps in the research area that we are exploring. Gap what is a gap? Gap is the space that we are trying to fill in by conducting that particular project. So this gap can have different forms, different perspectives. Sometimes, the people who are conducting research, they are trying to, working for filling the gap on theoretical basis, and sometimes we are working for certain aspects of the practice that we are dealing with certain problems in practice, and we are trying to fill in the gap by that. Sometimes gap can be filled in in policy making. People are not successfully implementing certain policies, so researchers, they come up and fill in the gap and help the policymakers to successfully implement that particular policy. So gap can be in various forms. And we also look at to show an advanced knowledge of your field of study. That is also another reason that we prepare a proposal, that we want to advance the knowledge that is already there in a particular field. And this is another purpose of a proposal. Uh, we also want to give outline of our research so that our supervisor or the committee can understand that what we will be doing during this particular project, and we also want to highlight what methodology we might be using to achieve that particular purpose or objective. And we also look at different steps involved in methodology, like gathering data, analysis of data, and the participants will be there if there are any. So all these things are essential parts of proposal, and they become a purpose as well. And the next, we will look at the logic of research proposal, like how different parts of a proposal, they are linked with each other. If we look at this diagram, then we can see that we start with aims. What is it all about? Like, what is the problem? What is the purpose or aim of our research? Obviously, the problem, aim, objective, these things arise from various actions can be there. It depends on the person, the context in which the person is working. It can be the practice. In terms of, if we talk in terms of teachers, then it can be a problem or any aspect of teaching that we might want to explore further in a particular context, or it can be any other area. Like, we can give numerous examples on that, but the particular aim is the first step that we bring in into the research proposal. Now, this aim, logically connects with literature review. What do we already know about that particular topic? For example, if we are looking for a, teacher professional development, let's take an example, then we want to explore a specific aspect of it, then we will definitely read the key literature on that particular topic, and then we will definitely try to establish what is already written or already said on that topic by various researchers and authors, because this will really prepare us to find out the gap that we want to fill in, because literature will tell us that what different things have already done or pieces of research already conducted. So we will also be it's kind of uh, where we are putting our piece in that particular bigger piece. So this is very important to explore literature on that. And this, reviewing of the literature leads to research questions that we will uh, base based on the aims of our research. Like research questions, we will discuss in length in the next sections. What do we need to find out? So this is basically the main objective. And then for these we need to have certain methods at hand that we'll be using, and we'll be conducting and finding out the answers to those research questions. How we will get the necessary information, and then we will move towards how long it will take and what it will cost. So this is the timeline or time frame that we have to mention in our research proposal, that the research questions that we have provided by employing these different methods, how long will it take to conduct this whole process. So this is resources. Ethics is a very critical and very crucial aspect of this whole activity, because if any participants, animals, or any kind of things are involved, can be children, so then ethics is very crucial, because we will see what different code of conduct is usually practiced during research activity, and why ethics are so important. And then we come out with certain outcomes or findings or results, and these results will definitely lead towards the practice, theory, policies, or all that. So this is how there's a link between these things. So when we look into the logic of research proposals, so certain questions are always helpful. What is it all about? The aims, the first thing, and what do we already know about the subject? That is literature review. What does the research need to find out? So this is what we are looking at, the research questions. And then how will we get the necessary information? So that is the methodology or methods, research methods, and what will it cost, and how long will it take. So this is all about the timeline or budget or funding, and then socially acceptable, the same ethics, and then benefits, findings, results for, and then the outcomes for practice, policy, theory. So what would be our contribution? So this is all about a research proposal. So we will see some features of an effective proposal before digging into different parts of a research proposal. First thing that is very essential, very crucial, is originality. Originality, what do we mean by originality? Originality is showing evidence of critical thinking. Critical thinking is, it means that we need to engage ourselves, with other scholars of the same particular field. This engagement is crucial. So at any level, when we are conducting research, this is what, um, people who are reading our research, they observe first, that how critically we are engaged. uh, Here, critical doesn't mean that we need to criticize each and everything that is there. It means that we need to involve, we need to come up with our own voice. We need to position ourselves within the whole debate that's going on. So this is very important. Obviously, it's not easy for bachelor and master's degree students, particularly because it involves a lot of reading, a lot of understanding, and then time comes when we start putting ourselves in the field. So here, this is the first thing that is very important, and it is one of the criterion in all good universities where people they conduct research. It's always their research is judged on the basis of originality, criticality, like how engaged with the debates of that particular field. uh, Acknowledge existing alternative views. This is very important. Like we need to not only come up with the key theories, key ideas of particular field. At the same time, we need to acknowledge and engage ourselves with those thoughts as well. That do we agree, disagree? Do we why have we included certain ideas? Why we haven't included the one that could have been done? So mostly the supervisors, they sometimes they mention these things that you have deliberately ignored or omitted certain theories in that particular research. So what would be the rationale? So this is very important to engage ourselves, acknowledge existing different views. Sometimes, confirmation bias on the part of researchers is, usually becomes a part of the research activity. Confirmation bias is that ideas that are close to my particular regime, or what do I really want to, achieve through that, I would love to include those ideas in my research. Now, in that case, alternative views are ignored, and this is something that is very crucial to acknowledge those alternative views, competing theories, counter information, and this is how it makes our research more credible. Avoiding plagiarism, resisting any temptation to paste the chunks of text from web or other sources. This is important that we should be, equipped with, two very important skills. One is, paraphrasing, and other is summarizing. So, because by doing that, we can really engage ourselves into originality. And then timeliness is second important thing in this perspective. Timeliness is uh, in respect of current issues, current debates. That's very crucial, because if we are not aware of current debates of that particular field, we are not basically up to date in our understanding of that particular issue. So, based on an awareness of current thinking and positions in the field of study, so this is very important that we could engage ourselves with the current debates that are going on. Obviously, the historical perspective of that particular field, or theoretical development in that particular field, is very important, but it's more important to see what's happening right now in 2022, 23. What developments have occurred, and how we are linked with those. Are we linking our particular research with those developments or not? So this is very important in that respect. The topic that is particular interest is of particular interest. So here, what do we mean by is that the topics that can be generic in nature, but sometimes certain contexts, they make those topics really particularly interesting. So this is very important, that to check the supervisor specialist area or priority area or funding body. It depends on like the person you are sending that proposal. Is that person really relevant to that particular area? That is also very important. It sometimes it happens that we are interested in one area, but the person who would be might not be available in the same area as well. But the context provide a very particular feature to our research. So it's very important that whatever topic we are selecting, it should be embedded in a particular context, and then we can go and find out the broader area for supervisor or funding body. And then it's important to know the buzzwords to include in the discussion. Buzzwords are uh, keywords, another word for that are particularly related to that topic, and these keywords must be a part of the whole discussion. So, because certain when we are looking for a research, so we see that certain terminology, certain keywords are frequently used in that particular research. It says that stick closely to any topics guideline provided for the proposal. Sometimes it happens that institutional guidelines are already there that you can stay within certain topics or areas of research if you have particular guidelines. So it's important to stay within those guidelines because this is how it will be convenient for you or us as a researchers, and then the people who are managing whole process. Another important thing is wider application of that particular research that we are going to conduct. It means that in a practical sense, that the findings can be applicable to other settings, or theoretical sense, the development of ideas and concepts linked to the topic. So at a theoretical level and at a practical level. So when we are looking at the findings and the last discussion part of any research, that is basically where we try to establish that our findings are linked with the theory at the same time with practice. Precision is very important, like a researcher has a clear vision of what is going to be studied. It should not be a very broad area, it needs to be precise and specific. So here one suggestion can be given: use words that are specific and positive. Sometimes while writing, we see that certain people, they write that I may or I might find out, or I might see. So words like ambiguous words sometimes, uh, they really give the idea that the person might not be well prepared. So it's very important to use words like this research aims to, intends to. So concrete words or some positive words that are very important to use when you are preparing a research proposal. So certain definitions are very important, certain terms that you will be using in your research. It's important to define them, that if you are using a particular term, then in what would be the definition for you in that particular research. Because if we won't define, then we basically open Pandora's box, because each term, for example, identity is such a big term and ambiguous, because it's a whole books are written on that. So in what way you are looking at identity, what way you are looking at development, you need to precisely define those terms. Reading that, they could understand what do you mean by these terms. Research questions or hypotheses. A good proposal managed to convert broad ideas or research into precise statements. So research questions are basically are the heart of the matter, because they are telling that what will you be conducting. So we need to be very precise in developing research questions. So this is also important. Now, this the major part of this presentation. It's about different parts of a research proposal. Here we will look at the broader things that we will be covering. So topic that we have chosen, and then the first thing is it worthwhile? Why do it? So this is very important. And second thing is feasible. Can it be done? Can it be done means that the methods that we are employing, and then the amount of data we are collecting, and the time frame that we are setting. So is it, sometimes it happens that longitudinal studies, they need more time. So in that case, uh, students who are conducting research for academic purposes, they might not go for those longitudinal studies. So therefore, it's very important to look into these two questions because they will determine what would be the main ideas. Now, here we will look at certain research outcomes. They will answer this question, why do it? And what would be the benefits, contribution to knowledge, or development of good practice, dissemination impact of finding. This is what we have discussed, that the outcomes can be in these different fields. Relevance identifies a need for further research. So this is the literature view that will guide these different values. And then suitable methods will determine the quality of that research. That quality is basically, or rigor in qualitative research is used. That is it really rigorous, and how carefully these particular methods are used. Planning available resources. This is basically the delivery of that particular research determined by that. And then ethics, if we are involved with certain uh, sampling or participants, then this is acceptable if we are really careful about ethical issues. So this is what determines the success or failure of a particular research. So if we look at the broader, these headings, so title, keywords, aims, background, literature review, and research questions, methods, planning, and so these are the main headings. So in certain writers might add couple of things, certain might omit certain things, but for a standard format, this is what usually is included in a research proposal. Now, when we look at different parts, so the first thing that comes in a research proposal is a cover page. Needs to include following information. It could be name, student ID, type of degree or qualification we are looking for, that is doctoral, diploma, or master's degree, and along with that, full title of the study. Of course, like each this how to write a title, it is obviously in the beginning it's not that easy, but still a tentative title is important. And we usually on the first page, this is what we include. But of course, you can go for the template provided by the institution, and these templates are available for students so they can just fill in the important information. Keywords are important. Whenever you prepare a proposal, include the keywords. Keywords also determine that what type of literature we'll be searching. So make a list of keywords when you are reading literature. So you will find all important keywords during that time. So first page is basically all important information. Abstract or summary we also include in the beginning. So summarize what your thesis or research will be about, and when and how will it be done. So a general rule of thumb is that it should be between 150 to 400 words. Abstract or summary of your research proposal should be there. That's a quick read for the supervisors or the committee that is looking at. Okay, now other main parts of the research proposal are introduction, background, literature review, methodology, ethical considerations. So we will start by introduction now. Introduction is the beginning. In the beginning, we provide some context. Thesis statement is the main purpose of the research that we provide an overview of a proposal. So these are major things that we discuss. Context is in which context this particular topic is investigated, and what we are trying to investigate, and then how we will be conducting that. it's usually a longer introduction than an essay introduction. So we usually write half a page or a full page of introduction in a research proposal. It's very important to provide more details about the context. What is the field of research and what are the major concerns in the field? This is very important. Like this, when we talk about the debates of the particular field, so there also we highlight what are the major concerns in that particular field. For example, teacher burnout can be one major, concern in educational field, where what would be the causes. This is a major concern. All along with also different support and scaffolding for teachers, but still teacher burnout is a major issue. So this can be a major concern. So we can see what concerns are there in the area we are working in. So what are the major areas people are grappling with? So these are important to include, and this is quite clear that what will your thesis be about and what are the main points you are supporting with your research. So this is all we include in our introduction, and we provide an overview of our research in the particular introductory page. Background is also very important in our proposal. It's about identifying why your research is important and why it's worth pursuing. So background will establish that how solid you are in your research and how motivated you are in conducting that whole activity. So if you see, this is it also shows that you have done a lot of reading in your field and you know what the emerging questions in your field are. So this is one thing that I can highlight is that reading, a lot of reading rather, is very necessary, and it is the foundation of any research project. And if we haven't read, then we can't have the confidence to do various steps of that particular research. So we need to spend really enough time to read all the key authors and their key works, so that when we sit to write, so we are confident that yes, we know the basics of that particular topic. And here for master's level students, it's important to demonstrate a good understanding of the topic. You don't necessarily need to do something groundbreaking or new at this stage when we are doing master's level thesis. But here we need to provide serious research in a focused way, so that the people can understand that we have really read well. But for doctoral level, it's very important to present an original idea or something that hasn't been researched before. It's important to either challenge a dominant theory, propose a new one, or this need to be done at a large and significant study that establish that you are an expert and you have become a part of that whole tribe of researchers. So this is important for doctor level. So I mean, the level of reading differs for different levels. But when we talk about doctoral level, so there you need to be more into theory of or philosophy of research. So here, background is not a full literature view, but you have to show that you have knowledge of the field, and you can understand what's the major studies are conducted. So it's not the place where we provide a lot of references, but you need to provide some key authors and what are their claims related to that particular topic. So gaps in knowledge is mostly mentioned here, that people are talking about, and it is still left, and how will your study will be addressing that particular gap. And So how can you find the gap? This is a suggestion. Read enough papers to discover patterns of where there are gaps in research to respond to with your thesis. So a lot of reading will guide you that you are reading, and how your context is also another element that will provide you with the gap, because mostly literature and then your context in combination, they help us to find out the gap in research gap. So here we will also be types of fieldwork or hypotheses you could formulate to try and answer these questions, different concerns that are highlighted by various researchers. And you can also quote relevant literature, and it's always a good idea to summarize, but or paraphrase. Rarely we can give actual quotes if they are really unavoidable. So it's important to tell the reader that how the study can impact the field, society at large, policy, or practice. And then this you briefly mentioned during your background section. Um, so why the research is exciting, and why it will be interesting to other people. These things must be addressed during this section. And then how can it expand your field, and how will you advance the knowledge of your field, or what would be the implications for practice. So these things briefly can be included, and you can also include your personal motivation, like why are you interested in this particular topic on personal level, like in your, because this is important. One is professional motivation. You might be conducting a research because of your professional needs. Another is that your personal motivation. Come up with your certain motivations from your personal life, like this topic or this particular area might have affected you positively or negatively in your past life, and that's why you are interested in exploring that. So this is what makes the research unique, and this is very crucial. Background shouldn't be more than 2 pages in length, so just keep it concise. Context, as I said earlier, is very crucial. Whatever, mostly the social sciences research. So context we can touch in terms of historical context, or we can talk about policy context if our topic is related to that, or practical problems that we are dealing with, or any key ideas. So context, context, and context. Literature review is a second major part of our research proposal, longest section, and it covers the major chunk of our proposal, and 3 to 5 pages, depending on the number of words allowed for, and it's usually already prescribed by the institution that how long should be your total proposal, but make sure that a major portion would be covered by literature review. And of course, like we look at the keywords, and then we start searching literature on that. Of course, the main topic that we work on, so it contains certain keywords like teacher professional development in a particular situation. So professional development, teacher professional development can be keywords, and we can read literature around that. So demonstrate the breadth of your research here. Show your reader that you have really seriously read a lot of literature. You haven't just skimmed, rather you have digested that literature. And then you can see that this is where you will establish that how serious you are about your research. So when we look at literature review, it's important that you have to, it's not important that you know everything before you start writing a literature review, but important to familiarize yourself with all major scholars in the field. This is very important. This is what the readers will note down. Have you read all key authors in that particular area? Do you know the key debates of that area? This is where you will, I mean, establish here at this point. Okay, so here literature review contains a narrative. Narrative means there should be a sequence or order in literature review. Literature review is not haphazard. It should start from somewhere and it should end somewhere. So this narrative actually come out as we keep on reading. So there comes the reading again. So more we read, more well established narrative we can build. So this is what makes it worthwhile. So literature review established that research is worthwhile. In the beginning we have seen worthwhile and feasible. So worthwhile is what we establish here in literature review. So this is important. Okay, now what do we mean by narrative or good literature review? Narrative means that we start by what reader knows already. So I mean general information, from general to specific. And then we come to the point where reader doesn't know much about on that topic. So this is where we show the depth of our reading, and we establish that how motivated we are in that particular topic. So in literature review, some suggestions can be given, and these are that read as many articles as possible on that particular topic. So the first thing, step one would be read the abstract, first paragraph or each of those articles, see if it is relevant to your topic. Then you can keep it for longer reading. So put it in your note taking part, or the place where you will be taking notes, and this is how you can keep on reading the abstract and the initial paragraphs, and then selecting those that are relevant to your topic, and then you can come back and read in detail. So here what will happen is that after reading 10, 20 or 30 articles, you will definitely familiarize yourself with that particular area, and the debates will be prominent for you, that what is being said in that particular area, and what people are talking about. And then you can start summarizing and then taking notes on that. Note taking itself is a separate study skill that is very important for conducting any research activity. So I suggest that we should really seriously work on a well-established note-taking platform we can use. Now, a lot of platforms are available online, so they can be explored. And note-taking is very important, because if we keep reading and if we don't take notes of what we are reading, then what happens is in the end we are frustrated, because we can't recall where we have read certain ideas that we need now while we are sitting to write. So logical, flow of your reading. Plan your literature review as you plan an essay. So make certain headings. Where will you get these headings? Headings will come when you'll read literature. You will see that most of the authors, they always talk about certain themes, certain headings again and again, and they will also be a part of your literature review. And then we also see it's an extra justification why you should be doing this research, because if we are not providing in-depth literature review, so then we are not basically establishing the worth of our research. So we have to establish the worth by providing in-depth literature. Okay, so citations are important. So you'll see that gradually headings, main headings, subheadings started developing, and we also cite literature, and this is important to refer to those ideas. Literature review, it's very important that we discussed earlier. Be critical. Criticality is what tells the reader that how deeply we are engaged with the whole thing. It's not that we are just talking about what others have said. It's very important that how we are engaged with those ideas. So here, authors' claims warranted? Are they backed up by sufficient evidence or reasoning? So if it is so, so just go and acknowledge that and say that why is it so, and comment on these questions when you are reading critically or writing critically. So these questions will help you to be critical. So criticality is a very crucial part of literature review. Right. So here, so this is how we become a part of academic tribe when we engage ourselves with the debates that are going on. Here, this is interesting quote: criticize the ideas, not the authors. So don't get personal. It's the idea that matters. So this is because general understanding, a word criticize is different than the word used in research. Here we are trying to engage in various ways with the ideas, not the authors. Right. So this is, if you see, this is iterative process of literature review. Initial topic area, and then we look for sub areas or keywords, and then we search published studies. We review those studies, eventually research questions. So we look at what research questions are asking, and we read about that. And then this process keep on repeating and refining, and it's not a linear one. It goes on and on and on. So we go back. So that's why I was talking about that when we search a published studies, here your note-taking system is very important to it. It works well because it will really help you to keep on track. Otherwise, we might be in the air all the time if we don't have a well-established note-taking system. Research questions are the heart of the matter. So let's look at quickly about research questions, and key research questions are this question: what will you be researching? So list your main research questions or the main topic that you'll be exploring, and we need to, the main aim of the research can be divided into research questions. They can keep on changing as you will keep on reading, because don't make them kind of fixed one, because they'll develop with the passage of time, and you will explain to them what you'll be thinking about, what you'll pursue your research, how will you pursue your research, and questions should be answerable. So mostly questions are depending on different type of research. Here we will see, I will show you that how research questions differ in qualitative and quantitative research. Don't make your research questions too vague. What is teacher identity? If this is the question, this is quite general and vague. This might be more specific. How do EFL teachers construct their professional identities in their efforts to implement the newly introduced curriculum? Now, here you can see it's very concise and specific. So try to establish, develop your questions, with the passage of time. Initially, questions might be general, but later on, when you read more, it will become more concise with the passage of time. So this is a suggestion. 4 or 5 sub questions will be enough, but you might reduce them to 1, 2, or 3, depending that how many are feasible. Because feasibility also demands that your research questions should be practical. I mean, they can be answered in within that time frame. Quantitative research questions can can be around events that will be observed, a certain event that you are going to observe. Quantitative is obviously based on the data that we collect in form of numbers mostly. If you see variables that will be measured, what variables are there that we are measuring, indicators that will be checked, and then behavior that will be monitored. So most research questions will focus on these things. But in qualitative research, that mostly so in social sciences, that this type of research mostly we might be engaged with, like in education and social sciences. We might be looking or framing our research questions based on beliefs or motives that will be interpreted, experience that will be described, or attitude or opinion that will be detected, lifestyle or culture that will be portrayed or studied. So these questions can be around these areas. Now, we are now in the middle of this session, and this is the perspective behind the research. And it's very important for PhD level research because this will show that uh, where your research is grounded. So this picture is a bit blurry. Sorry for that, but the idea is that research area, we have already seen similar flow problem that we are exploring, and we read about this problem in literature and get some ideas from the context. We formulate research questions at this point, and then we take these research questions into theory. Theory means that we theorize. Now, this is very important that we will look into, because this theory, it plays a very crucial role, and this is all about pre-empirical stage. Pre-empirical mean before collecting data, we work on these areas. What data required to test hypotheses? Now, here, when we look at research questions or hypotheses, whatever, we can choose one, but these questions or hypotheses, they are basically grounded somewhere. So this is what we will look into: design, data collection, data analysis, and hypotheses or answers to these research questions. This is empirical stage. So this is what we are looking into at this point. So this is the perspective behind research. What is a particular perspective or philosophical position or a paradigm, or different words are used, or meta theory, which lies behind and informs the research? So this is very crucial, because any research activity has some ontological and epistemological basis, and without these no research can exist. So we have to clarify that what is our perspective of knowledge, and or perspective, or we can say that our understanding of being, and then how do we approach that reality that we see outside. So this we establish by looking into different paradigms. What do we mean by paradigm? Paradigm is a set of assumptions about the social world, like how do we see reality, what lens do we use to see the external world, and about constitute proper techniques and topics for inquiring into the world. We can say that it's a way of looking at the world. It's the lens that we have. It's a kind of you know um, lens that we use to see the external world or reality. So some famous examples of paradigms in social research are positivism, post-positivism, and critical theory, constructivism. So they have their own attributes. They are different from each other. Positivists believe that reality is external. It doesn't have any link with the participants. It can be observed and studied outside. Post-positivism is all about understanding, there are multiple views with post-positivism, and critical theory looks into the power relations between how reality is constructed, or how reality can be studied. Constructivism believes that reality is constructed by the participants or the people who are dealing with that reality. So we can also see qualitative research can be done with these paradigms: feminism, postmodernism, symbolic interactionism, semiotics, ethno-methodology, discourse analysis, conversational analysis. So these are different ways in which we can explore, external reality. We can ground our research in one of these, but it depends on uh, how much we have read, and how do we understand, or what is our understanding of reality. So when we are adopting a particular perspective, it can really affect how do we make certain assumptions, and then how we give meaning to certain terminology. So because this is the basis of different assumptions we are making, and this is how we give meaning to different terminology, and it can influence researchers to focus on certain issues and raise certain questions and problems for the research. For example, if somebody is conducting research with the lens of feminism, so they might be looking at the position of women in a particular context, and they might be looking reality in that particular perspective. So in that case, the whole thing will be different. I mean, issues will be different, questions and problems will be different. So this is very important to understand and include in our research. It can influence both the discourse and method of research. Discourse mean the way we talk about research when we'll be writing. Then it will affect our terminology, our jargon, because every paradigm has a different jargon, and our language will be affected with that. And most importantly, methods of research will also be affected by that. That paradigm will determine what different methods we will be employing for conducting that research. Now this is very crucial, because if we are not clear about the paradigm, we can't justify our methodology of our research. So this is extremely important. So influence the way research questions are asked, and again, it leads to all these things. So this is basically the base of anything that we are doing. So it will also be affect the implications for methods that we'll be selecting. Right. So, of course, like when we'll start reading on these different paradigms, they will have different, criteria. So that can be studied further. So they are themselves whole, world. So we can explore. So next, we will move to methodology now. Now we have seen that if we have selected a particular perspective, now it will lead us towards our methodology. Like, what would be our methodology? Because a methodology will base on our paradigm. So if you are a positivist, then you will be using all the different data collection methods that are used by the positivists, where you might be conducting statistical, you'll collect statistical data, and you will analyze it accordingly. And then your tools and different things would be different than the someone who might be conducting research in constructivist paradigm. So this is how you will see that these things will have different impact. It will take to perform yeah, exact steps you will find out here, that how research will be conducted. Therefore methodology is a very crucial chapter, where you precisely tell that what steps will be taken and what research tools will be used, like how will you collect data, and then how will you analyze, and then how will you write up, and then how will you present findings. So this is all happen here. So if there are ethical concerns, if the participants are at risk, then it's important to mention everything here. So your this particular segment should not be more than 10 to 20 pages, but again, it depends on the prescribed format of your institution. But general rule of thumb is that this is how it should be. In the total proposal is 10 to 20, then 3 to 5 pages should be there. Now, another important thing in methodology is a theoretical framework. Theoretical framework is also very important to establish that you are really have dig deep into your research. If you see, what do we mean by theoretical framework? It tells the reader which theories you will be relying on to inform your research approach. Theoretical framework will help you to, discuss your findings. How will you explain or talk about your findings? So this is where it will help. You rely on particular theories or ways of thinking in order to guide your research. Theoretical framework is different from conceptual framework. Conceptual framework provides a complete system where meaning making can be seen, but theoretical framework is generally used to answer your research questions. It mainly focuses on particularly on your research questions, and it try to help you to answer those research questions with the perspective of a particular theory or particular approach that I will show you shortly. So theoretical frame background is like perspective you will take when you observe, analyze your data, and type of thinking you will do when you consider answer to your research questions. So there are countless theories out there. Every field, every topic has a certain set of theories that are prominent and mostly employed for analyzing data. So it depends on the field you are working in, on the area you are working in. So when we read literature, we see that what are the major theories that are referred again and again within that particular area, and that helps us determining our theoretical framework. So when you will read 20, 30, 50 research articles or theses, you in methodology section you'll see that what are the major theories people are referring to or employing to study their particular research. So if we look at the broadly qualitative research or social science research, mostly uh, focus on these different theories: grounded theory, critical theory, participatory action research theory, driving force approach, semiotic approach, phenomenological approach. These are a few I have mentioned here just to give an example. List can be very long, so it again depends particularly that what area you are working in. For example, as a teacher, if we look into educational research, so we might be explaining our data with the help of social constructivist approach, socio-cultural theory. Socio-cultural theory, the famous theoretical framework can be community of practice, that is very popular nowadays. So in community of practice, how social norms, social context help learners to learn, and teachers also learn from their social context. So this is one offshoot of that. Behaviorism can also be there, cognitivism, objectivism. So what I'm trying to establish is that it's very important to look into the theoretical framework and choose one that will help you to elaborate your, data. Theoretical framework, which theories do they use, and then which frameworks do they rely on. So this is what you need to keep in mind while reading, that what are people referring again and again. So key authors, key theories, and research methods. So when we are reading, we should keep on taking notes on these things. Who are the key authors in that particular area, and what are the key theories in that area, and what are the commonly used research methods of that area. And then you can choose what fits your study design, and you can rely on that. Next part is research methods or data collection. So how you will perform your study. Now here you will use different tools that you will collect data, and then definitely you will collect data that you will later analyze within your theoretical framework and explain exact steps that you will take. And then if there are important concerns related to the participants, then ethical consideration is essential. Make sure that what will you be doing, how many participants you will be choosing, you will be conducting structured or unstructured interviews or surveys, or what will you be doing. So this all depends on your research questions, that what research questions do we have. Participants are very important part of any research. If the research is about collecting data from participants, then explain who will be the participants, and how have you selected those or chosen those participants. Now this whole rationale is important. So what method have you used? Snowball sampling, or is it something convenient sampling, or whatever, I mean, the method, this needs to be included here. Ethical considerations are very important. If you deal with participants, or if your research impact plants or animal life, then you can't get away from ethical considerations. You need to address them in detail. Otherwise, research committee might not pass your proposal. So this is very crucial. So you need to understand the code of conduct for that particular institution, that what are the code of conduct related to ethics, and then you need to address all those issues. So here it's very important that no harm will be, you will prevent any harm to the participants, and no negative impact on them, and you have to deal each and everything. So mostly when we talk about ethical considerations, we address these three major issues: that participants will not be harmed in any way, like psychologically, physically, emotionally. This you have to ensure. And voluntary consent, it means that they can uh, withdraw from the research anytime. So they are free to participate and free to withdraw. Scientific integrity, it means that you will be taking care of the whole data in an integral way. It's very important that you keep a good record of everything, and you are really you know what are the basic codes that establish scientific integrity. Research plan and bibliography. We are moving towards the end of research proposal now. Research plan is important to tell that how will you be doing this whole thing. It means that how much time will it take, and then how many chapters would be there. So you have to provide the specific details on that. It's a very short section, but mostly it's important. It provides the plan of your research, gives a timeline, and timeline means that how long will it take an estimated time frame is required. This is also important. We include limitations of the study. If you have any particular limitations related to, or concerns, if you have any, then you can mention them in your methodology and the end of your methodology section. It can be related to sample is too small. You can't include a particular gender, or you might look at a specific type of literature and you are not looking at some other literature. So mention that why you have taken certain decisions, and what are the limitations. Limitations indicate that you are well aware of your research, and you have really thoroughly studied, and this sometimes give a very good message as well. Sometimes it seems that there are shortcomings, but these shortcomings are basically become your strength, because you establish that you are really credible and reliable, because you know these concerns. And limitations can be the boundaries to literature that we have just seen, that you can talk about, that you have read a literature within a specific period of time, from certain years to certain years, or certain topics that you have included. So you can mention that also, or that things that will not be done in this particular research and why, and then you can also people that will be included. So some people are included and why you haven't included others. So you can mention all these different things in your limitations. Chapter outlines, in the last briefly list the all chapters that you will be writing. So how many chapters would be there? So you can mention the chapters and their names. So this will give the your supervisor an idea that what will you be working on. Timeline means list all planned dates, handing in draft to your supervisor. It depends on the template that is used by the institutions. Certain institutions, they ask for this timeline, that how long will you take for writing or finishing each stage of your research. So these dates you can provide. They are obviously tentative, but they are important. They will give you an idea that how quickly you have to work and finish that. Right. So bibliography is the list of articles, books, and films, discussions, or any information that you have consulted. It's always recommended that keep a record of your bibliography or literature you're reading, and for that there are softwares that can be used, because while we start reading, we read a lot of stuff, and it's important to keep a record of it. And then yeah, so when you are going to include the bibliography, so see what is the suitable or recommended referencing style, APA, MLA, Harvard, or Chicago, that is used in your institution. Most of the institutions follow APA, so APA can be used. Referencing softwares help now because of the technologies, Zotero, EndNote, Mendeley, or any other. You can choose any one, and they can provide you bibliography and referencing by following any of these styles. So start using them from the beginning, because they will help you to keep a record of your readings. This is the last, this is the headings of your research proposal, that I can give you a general idea. Title, abstract, and research questions, conceptual framework, theory, hypothesis, or now different writers actually put a different order to these sections. So some people might put research questions after the literature review, some put research questions in the beginning. So it's not hard and fast rule. So it's up to you that, and it's also important to follow institutional prescribed template. But these are the general templates that are used in social science research. These are the references that I have consulted and some suggested reading. So now it's time for questions if you might have, and we can discuss.
MashaAllah, as usual, Dr. Mansour, very, very insightful, very valuable, very interactive, very interesting presentation, which is really needed by everybody. Thank you, Dr. Mansour, again, and thank you, all participants. If you have any questions, please do post them in the chat box, or you can use the microphones. Our next week's workshop is going to be on Wednesday, the 31st of May, about common mistakes in academic writing by Mr. Helgand, inshallah. Your attendance and participation are always welcome and appreciated. I'm posting 3 links in order to complete the first one if you are willing to get your certificates.
Assalamu alaikum wa
Uh,
rahmatullah.
wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Dr. Mansour, could you please guide us about the research paradigm? Like, if, as you said, that we can like oppose, or we can like whatever the already research is, we can give another point of view about that. So, could you please guide us more about that?
Right. So there are two questions. One is about research paradigm, and other is, I mean, providing alternative views on theory or different writers. Now, research paradigm is basically the basic framework or lens by which you or as a researchers we see reality, and this basically what we come up in the very beginning. We tell clearly that how do we see reality, how do we see things, and how we will be studying or acquiring knowledge from that reality. So this is basically what paradigm is. Paradigm um is basically our personal choice that how do we see reality as an individual, as a researcher. Now, the second thing is that when we are working on literature review, we have to be critical. In critical, I mean that we have to engage ourselves with the other theories, other debates. Now, initially, of course, it's not easy to do it because it requires a great length of reading, and then a time comes when we keep on commenting on what other writers or theorists are talking about. So the strongest point we can have is our own context, because in our context, how things are done, that is what makes us as a researchers are unique, people in that particular context. So in within our context, we can see different theories from different perspectives. So we can provide those perspectives in our literature review. So this is how we can, contest competing ideas or alternative views, or we can acknowledge, or we can refute, or we can ignore, or whatever. But this is all about criticality. So this is, I think, what we need to understand.
Excellent, excellent question and very, very excellent answer. Still, we have 3 more minutes, dear ladies and gentlemen. If you have any more questions, you can either post them in the chat box or use your microphones.